The end credit sequence shows Wolverine and Storm.
Oh God, here we go.
In an earlier, like before they became X-Men, when Storm was a meteorologist in Memphis.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to A Conversation with Colin. I'm Greg, and this is my roommate, Colin. Now, sometimes Colin says crazy stuff. So every Tuesday and Thursday, I reach into my random topic pile, pull one out, we talk it out, I throw it out, you have a great time. If you like that, like the video, subscribe to us on YouTube, and make sure you share it with your friends. Colin, are you ready?
Yes.
Today's topic of conversation is spoilers. When are they okay? Is it ever okay? Personally, I think spoilers for anything should be off limits from ChewieJDS.
Spoilers for
Anything should be off limits. Get fucked, Chewie. Guess what? Darth Vader, he's the guy's father.
What happened to Jesus when he carried that cross up to that mountain?
I don't want to know. Okay, I mean, he makes spoilers are something we all live with.
That's some of that New Testament. Basis. That's that New Testament
I know.
spoiler.
I'm almost done.
All
I think it's gonna have a happy ending. You know, obviously it's big right now for TV. It's obviously big for movies. It's big for games. Every form of media right now, because especially with the instantaneousness of Twitter.
Right.
Right. You finish a Breaking Bad episode. You want to tell everybody how great Breaking Bad was. You can't. You don't want to ruin it for people. But some people don't assign to that situation. What are the Colin Moriarty rules for spoilers?
The cutoff is like a couple of years, I think, is okay.
So then what about us on Podcast Beyond? We usually give games a few months.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, a few months is fine. But I mean, this is like, that's an enthusiast crowd, right? That plays the games quickly.
I see what you're saying.
But I think in general, like, the most famous spoiler, in my opinion, of the last 20 years was Bruce Willis in The Sixth Sense, right?
Sure, I see dead.
Knowing that about Bruce Willis before going into that film would ruin the movie.
Right.
So that was like, and that was when M. Night was hot.
Oh yeah.
He was OG, he was hot on the streets.
What a twist.
And so like, so that is like the cutoff for me. Like, and I think about that specific spoiler.
Sure.
Like Darth Vader, as you know, being Luke's father, is from Empire, is a huge spoiler as well. And that
Usual
was
Suspects. That was another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course the New Testament.
Of course, and that's how it goes. Bruce Willis, Vader, Usual Suspects, New Testament.
Right, exactly. People get really bent out of shape about spoilers, and I got bent out of shape about a spoiler that happened on Twitter for The Killing. Okay. And
an AMC show.
Yeah.
Season 1 starring Eric Layden.
Someone spoiled that show for me, and I got really mad.
Yeah.
And that was, you shouldn't just go out of your way to spoil something for someone else, regardless of how old it is. Like, if someone's like, what happened? What happened in Empire Strikes Back? I can't wait to see it. And they're like, oh, Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to do that, but like in general conversation, I think it's okay.
Sure.
This person ruined like the entire show for me, where I'm like not even watching it anymore. So like, that wasn't cool.
I don't think years are. I mean, if it's in theaters and it's still that hotness, I totally understand. Like, I don't want to know how. I haven't seen Wolverine, right? Or the new Wolverine flick yet.
He's got claws on his hands.
That I know. That's not a spoiler, but I know there's an end credit sequence that's supposed to be really good. But I don't want to know what it is. I don't. You know what I mean? That I'm saving for myself.
The end credit sequence shows Wolverine and Storm.
Oh God, here we go.
In an earlier, like before they became X-Men, when Storm was a meteorologist in Memphis.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's did she eat a lot of barbecue?
Yeah. Well, everyone in Memphis eats a lot of barbecue.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But if I never get around to seeing it in theaters and it leaves theaters, then I think we can start to get into this gray area of like.
No, I don't.
If we're talking about great end credit sequence, somebody's like, Wolverine's got a great one. Maybe I say, oh, I haven't seen it yet. Don't tell me. But I'm probably gonna let it go.
Yeah, I don't know if that's enough of a grace period for acceptable spoiler.
I think acceptable goes person by person. Twitter needs to get shit in check. There was once where I was coming back from an event and I landed on a Sunday night and I checked, and this isn't even, I guess, because I was out of the loop and I didn't see the show yet. People on the East Coast are always spoiling shit for us on the West Coast. Where Walking Dead ends and immediately Cliffy B is like, holy shit, I can't believe that Michonne fucking found a rocket. And you're like, no, why would you tweet that?
I don't know that. You just spoiled it for me.
I made that up. That's a fake spoiler.
There's
no real rocket.
She found a rocket that goes to where?
To space.
Then that's where the zombies are from.
Yeah, that's where it all came back to.
Okay, that makes a little bit of sense.
But see, I think that's out of line. You can't do it immediately.
No, that's bullshit. You shouldn't be tweeting spoilers generally, and here's a funny thing for you, Greg. I read a lot of history, right?
I know you do.
And there are times where I'm like, what happened at this battle in World War II in the Pacific, right?
Sure.
And I'm like, I don't know what the casualty rate in this battle was off the top of my head, and I want to read more about it. And I start to go to Wikipedia. And then I'm like, no, I don't want to spoil it for myself. I'm going to read a book about it and get to the very end of the book.
Oh, that's nice.
You know?
That's neat.
So, like, there are spoilers from things that are not fiction.
Sure.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
And I always found that really funny. Like, my approach to that is, like, I know I have a lot of innate, like, historical knowledge, because that's why I studied, but there are these things that I don't know where I'm like, I want to find out the hard way how these things happened.
Right.
And I respect that people want to do that with their fiction as well. You know, so I try not to intentionally spoil things for people. I've apologized for spoiling things that maybe a little too quickly sometimes.
Sure.
The Last of Us was a good example of where everyone thought the game was spoiled. That was the best, by the way, was when before The Last of Us came out for like a couple months.
They put out that beta. They put out their multiplayer. They put out their teaser, the demo, and then the Portillo. Then the demo had cutscene titles in it, and everybody thought they figured it out. So then people started going into comment threads and announcing what they thought it was.
And it was the best because none of the spoilers were real. That was the best part. Like when we started to play the game, I'm like, all these spoilers are fake.
Yeah.
Like you totally misunderstood everything that this game was telling you.
And see, that's the problem with spoilers. Is that yesterday I got a tweet from a kid, and it was, I have it from a psychic, in quotes, that Glenn or Maggie won't be long for Walking Dead this season. And I tweeted, I'm like, why, I'm going out of my way not to find that kind of stuff. I don't read Walking Dead articles on our site about the TV show. Why would you send that to me? And then he wrote a letter to Podcast Beyond apologizing. And he's like, I was just making a prediction. I don't know. I'm not connected to the show in any way. I'm just some kid. And I thought that was a nice way, but it's like, that's the problem.
And then you blocked him.
Then I banned his IP so he can never go on the internet again.
Right.
But that's the weird thing about spoilers, right? That even now, if you're just thinking about it, maybe a fake one for Last of Us, that kind of ruins because you think you might know where it's going, and then it kind of spoils it.
There's another side of this coin.
Oh my
When
God.
a spoiler makes you want to watch the
Sure.
show.
Oh yeah.
For me, that happened with Lost, where I didn't start watching Lost until the 3rd season live.
Okay.
I was in college at the time. And when I was watching the first couple of seasons, I was aware of the show, and I'd come in and out of the show, but I didn't really care much about the show. My friend Brandon San Giovanni, who I saw at New York Comic Con totally randomly last year, by the way. He was like, no, there's a really cool thing with these numbers, and they find this thing in the woods,
right.
And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And so I knew that they were going to get to that point, but it made me want to go back and watch the entire show. Now, watching Lost, of course, was a huge waste of my fucking time, but because that show sucks. But those first few seasons were really good.
Yeah.
And so there's another side of the coin, right? Like you find out things. People were getting a little upset we were spoiling Infamous on Podcast Beyond, but you gotta get with the times on that.
There's been years of that. There's been years, especially when we get to a game where it's the 3rd entry in a series and they are all tied together. You got to understand what you're getting into.
Yeah,
right? People always do that. Oh man, some are really good about it when we put it in the title of a show. It's the Last of Us podcast, or whatever. We're talking about this part of the Last of Us, or Last of Us Return Uncharted. They'll ask us before they listen, "Is there spoilers in this?" And that's totally okay. You know what I mean? I get that. I get that they're protecting themselves. But you can't jump into a discussion about a game or movie or TV show and then be like, "Oh, well, why did you spoil it?" How are we gonna have this intelligent discussion about it?
Yeah, I don't know. I with the PlayStation stuff specifically, it bothers me because it's if you're a PlayStation gamer and you're listening to a hardcore PlayStation podcast and you haven't played Uncharted yet,
right?
I have to kind of question your dedication.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean, Greg?
Yeah, but you're getting on late. I understand it, but it's just
no.
Hopefully those are what made you want to play. I agree with you. I can't think of any of the specific examples. Portillo's just running around and the whole crew is chasing him, trying to stop him from making noise. And we care. Fucking windows open, people going by on mopeds, whatever. But I've definitely had it the same way, where somebody tells me about something I wasn't super into before, but then there's a twist. I think Spec Ops: The Line is a good example of that, right? Where I was like, and then Mitch is like, no, things get crazy in it and you need to do. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
What a remarkable game that is.
Everybody should play Spec Ops: The Lines. Thank you at ChewieJDS. Sorry, I think I called you an asshole or something in the beginning. But
because he said,
we're having fun.
Because he said,
in parentheses,
I think spoilers for anything should be off limits. For anything.
No way to talk about anything.
What did you have for dinner tonight?
I don't want to spoil it.
I don't want to spoil it. You're going to figure it out when you see the dishes in the sink.
Well, Colin, thank you for your time. I think that wraps up this conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. Make sure you like the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to us, and come back every Tuesday and Thursday. Until then, have a conversational day.
You want to talk about a character? you want to talk about a character that was made to make a fucking Kenner toy? Then we'll talk about Grievous. It's oh, how many lightsabers can we give this fucking jackass?